What if the greatest prison is the one you call truth? I grew up believing I had the truth, not part of the truth. The truth, I was taught that we were saved and others were lost, that we were walking toward heaven while others were walking toward destruction. And because I was a child, I believed it. How could I not? The people I trusted believed it. The people I loved believed it. So I inherited their certainty. But even as a child, something troubled me. I looked at people outside my religion, and many times I saw kindness there, honesty there, compassion there. Sometimes more than I saw inside the walls of the church, and that confused me. Because the world I inherited was supposed to be simple. Good people were inside, lost people were outside. Yet reality refused to cooperate. The older I became, the more cracks appeared. I noticed something else. Many people around me were not transforming themselves. They were defending identities. When they hurt others, they rarely stopped to ask, could I be wrong? Instead, every criticism became persecution. Every disagreement became proof they were righteous. Every challenge became another reason to believe they were chosen. And I began to wonder, if a belief makes me unable to question myself, is it leading me toward truth or away from it? Years later, I studied theology. I thought I would find answers. Instead, I found more questions. The more I learned, the more interpretations I discovered. Every group had its own certainty, its own exclusive path, its own explanation for why everyone else was wrong. Then for the first time, I looked beyond my own tradition. I saw symbols repeating across cultures, stories repeating across civilizations, different names, different myths, different languages. Yet beneath them, something felt familiar. And that realization changed me. Because for the first time, I stopped judging people simply because they used different words than I did. That was the beginning of my liberation, not liberation from religion, liberation from certainty. Years later, I began seeing religion through a different lens. Plato spoke of a cave where people mistake shadows for reality, but my cave looks different. When I imagine humanity, I see a vast cave with countless doors carved into its walls. Some doors are Christian, some are Muslim, some are Buddhist, some are atheist, some are spiritual, some are philosophical. And every door has a guide standing beside it. Every guide makes a promise. This is the way. This is the truth. Follow me. So people choose a door, they step through and discover a labyrinth. At first they believe they are getting closer, they study, they memorize, they devote themselves. And because they have invested so much time and energy, they become convinced they must be right. But often they become more lost than before. Not because the labyrinth contains nothing valuable, but because they begin confusing the labyrinth with reality. And the deeper they identify with it, the harder it becomes to leave. Because now their identity depends on it. And perhaps that is the real prison. Not the religion, not the institution. The identity. The self we build around belonging, the self we become afraid to question. The self we defend even when it keeps us trapped. Some people escape one maze only to enter another. They leave one certainty behind and immediately adopt a new one. A different door, a different labyrinth, the same chains. Because the problem was never the door. The problem was the need to belong to one. Some people spend their entire lives inside the maze, but a few continue searching. A few refuse easy answers. A few keep walking, and eventually they find an exit. They open the final door, step through it, and discover they are back in the cave. The promises are gone. The certainty is gone. The illusion of possessing the whole truth is gone. And for the first time they see clearly. Nobody owns the truth. Nobody contains all of it. Every path holds fragments. Every religion holds fragments. Every philosophy holds fragments. The truth is scattered everywhere. And perhaps wisdom begins when we stop trying to possess it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever discovered that something you once believed with absolute certainty was only part of a story? Write your answer in the comments, because I think many of us have stood before that door at least once in our lives. To Today I can listen to a Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist, an atheist, a mystic, or a philosopher without fear. Not because I believe they're all right, but because I no longer need them to be wrong in order for me to feel safe. I take what is beautiful, I learn what is useful, and I leave the rest behind. Not because I reject it, but because I no longer belong to the maze, and perhaps awakening begins there. Not when you find the perfect system, but when you finally become free enough to walk through all of them, and free enough to walk away.